It's time for another feature release and bug fix demo. 3.10.6 is introducing, I'm going to call it a new feature. It's sort of a bug fix. There is a major bug fix that I was not aware of. My testing, I had omitted this particular test, and it took a bug report to help me find it. And now that it's been found, it has been fixed, and that actually brings us to this demo to show off what it does and how it works, and the changes that have been made in order to facilitate making the most of this extension. I'm going to go ahead and explain the bug first. There were a number of small bugs that were fixed. There was a window target bug, and there were some JavaScript errors that I resolved, and there were some PHP errors that I resolved, missing array indexes and stuff like that. So all that's been taken care of. Any bug report that's been issued up until now is fixed in 3.10.6. The major bug came when a user reported that accepting his Google Analytics level did not activate the Google Analytics plugin. It wasn't loading. It would load under the public view level, but it would not load under the special analytics cookie access level that he created as per my instructions for setting up this extension. Now, at first I brushed it off because the analytics plugin that was reported was something I was going to have to buy, I think. And I'd run enough tests on other plugins and other modules that I was sure that it worked, so I kind of dismissed it. And please be persistent if you know that something is really a bug. A good description goes a long ways, because just saying that it doesn't work, and it's hard to troubleshoot bugs sometimes when you can't reproduce them, and I wasn't reproducing it correctly. So I went out and found another analytics plugin, and I realized something, and that was that all of the analytics plugins that I could find that were free, that I didn't have to buy. I don't want to have to buy something to test the bug. But all the ones that I found that were free all had one thing in common. They all ran as system plugins. And I went and I looked at all my tests, and I realized that I had not tested a system plugin against the access level modifications that are done when you accept or decline cookies, or levels, or the individual cookies. So I started testing with a system plugin, and it was absolutely confirmed. It would not add the access level for a system plugin. It would do any other type of plugin, but not a system plugin. So yesterday I spent about 10 hours experimenting to find a way to do this, because it's like a key feature of my extension. It can't not do it. So I spent a good long time yesterday finding a solution to this problem, and find it I did at 2 o'clock this morning. I posted something to the forums explaining that I'd found a solution to a big bug, and that I was not going to be implementing it right away, because a 10-hour stretch that ends at 2 o'clock in the morning just can't go well if you start writing the code. So let me show you how this works. I downloaded a free Google Analytics plugin, and it uses old ga.js, so you'll have to adjust this to the newer analytics JavaScripts, but it works the same. It just looks different. So when a user accepts an analytics access level, you know what? Let me refresh this screen because I just modified that. There we go. These are the cookie names that are applied. This is the domain it's applied to. It's for Google Analytics. I'm going to go ahead and accept it and agree. And there are all of my analytics cookies. Yay. They all showed up just right on time. Now, if you deselect analytics, they're gone. Boom. Takes them away. So, how this is configured is super neat. It's a super pain. Because you have to define which cookies are to be removed in order for the plugin to know which cookies to remove, which cookies go with which access level. So, within cookie definitions, you have chosen, you give it your issuing domain, you give it the cookie name, you give it a description, and you set an access level. Okay. Now, at first I thought about adding these extra settings into this table, but this table is already crowded enough as it is, and at present, everything in this table is for display only. There's nothing functional on this table with the exception of required and access level, but these are easy select drop downs. So these three items here are for display only, and I didn't want to have a mixture of display stuff with functional stuff, and it was going to be a super pain. And so I've got a second table here for cookie removal. Now this only works for cookies that are issued on your domain. So let me explain what that means by going back to the front end here. I'm gonna accept these cookies again, and we'll expand this window open here. If you notice, we are on my GDPR website. If you notice, all of the cookies are either .gdpr.richyweb.com, which is the cookie domain that I have configured in global configuration, or it is .richyweb.com, which is the cookie domain that Google assumes when you load your analytics plugins. So, don't take this as gospel. It's not always going to be your root domain. There are lots of configuration options for Google Analytics, so I'm going to suggest that when you identify these configurations, you identify them by looking at the actual cookies that are being set by these plugins. Now, if it's a plugin that's setting a cookie from a domain that's not yours, there's nothing that ePrivacy can do about it. That has to do with the same origin policy that is implemented in all browsers. That means that the richyweb.com site and the richyweb.com delivered JavaScripts can only manipulate richyweb.com cookies. So, if you have cookies coming in from Yahoo, ePrivacy can't do anything about it other than prevent the Yahoo plugins from loading, or prevent the content that contains Yahoo cookies from loading. So, the way that ePrivacy prevents third-party cookies is by not loading the content, and then once cookies have been accepted, we can't do anything about it other than not load the content, which then doesn't bring about the cookies being reported back to the owner. So anyway, in order to define the cookies to be removed, you can only define cookies for your own domain. So that I could do any cookie from .gdpr.richyweb.com, from gdpr.richyweb.com, from .richyweb.com, from any subdomain of gdpr.richyweb.com. So when you identify these cookies, basically pick the domain and the path and the name from the actual assigned cookies. And it's going to be super pain for some extensions, but it is what it is. Now if we go back to the configuration, there's something that you may notice here is that there is a match type, and I'm going to add a new one in here so I don't mess with my thingies. You have option to define your matches via regex. So, you know, if you have a couple cookies that are similar, you could define a regular expression that will identify one versus the other. For those of you who are not familiar with regular expressions, I'm going to urge you to stick with string and come to the forums to ask for help, because regular expressions are something good to learn. If you're going to be doing a lot of programming, or if you're going to be doing any programming, learn regular expressions. They are super powerful. Anyway, so all you have to do is, when you identify your cookie definition here, you individually list each cookie that you plan on removing when a user has exited that cookie level, and then associate it with the correct access level here. Then when a user accepts that cookie and then later declines it, if it's within a domain that can be manipulated, then this plugin will do it. Otherwise, it just takes you out of the access level, and that, you know, that plugin doesn't load anymore, or that module doesn't load anymore. So, for those of you who've been tearing your hair out trying to figure out why your Google Analytics won't load, or your other system plugins won't load, this update resolves that issue and adds several features. Oh yeah, who asked? JJ. I'm gonna call him JJ. I don't know his real name. Good look. He asked if I could templatize the cookie definitions table, and that has been done. So you can override that in your template HTML folder. Somebody else commented on JJ's request asking if it could be made accessible, which I will look into that right away. It's not going to be in 3.10.6, but it will be in a future version once I identify all of the various and sundry bits and pieces that need to be adjusted for that. So that is 3.10.6. Please update immediately, and that will get you all these fixes and features. Thank you.